Welcome back to Greenhouse Lab. We've got another little lesson for you. Today we're going to be talking about our brassica area of our sustainable garden, and my daughter Alice is our camera person, and so I've got a little bit of a different view than you guys riding around on my head.
Yes, I am.
We've done lessons before about taking care of this area, and I talked about the idea that my cauliflower was the magnet for our imported cabbage worms. And so I knew that the cabbage worms really like to eat it, and I am fine with that. I'm not planning on bringing in any cauliflower to harvest, but what I wanted to do was to bring in some kale. So Alice, let's grab a nice shot of this kale. You can see over here that we've got a beautiful crop of kale going. We want to come on in and take off some of these older leaves, and so I have
Like the little
a bunch of kale
ones.
plants, and you can see we've got some older leaves. We're going to make a pile of them, and when we're done we can bring them on over to the chickens. Each plant is going to have a couple of leaves just down at the bottom. They're older and yellowed.
And they'll oftentimes have holes in them because
as we're picking off these leaves, Alice is noticing that some of them have some holes in them. We do have some insects that live near our sustainable garden, and they do like to chew on the brassicas. But this kale is almost ready to start bringing in for harvest. We could take these leaves. The kale is a crop, it's called a cut and come again. And so what that means is we can cut the leaves that we want and it will continue to grow. Kale grows from the center. So if we take off these older leaves, now that we've taken the yellowed ones off, when we come out here next week, we can start to harvest this kale and we can use it in soups. We could make kale chips from it, just like you guys have at the collaborative, and really get as much productivity out of these plants as possible. It's not like cauliflower. Cauliflower, if you cut the main head, that's what you have.
Yeah,
but kale is a cut and come again. So
kind of like basil.
As we move over to our right, we have our kale, and kale's doing wonderful. You'll see that we have our cauliflower. We're going to do a similar sort of thing with the cauliflower, but I bet as you zoom in a little bit, you'll notice that this cauliflower has had quite a problem with pests. Our imported cabbage worm is really enjoying this plant. And that's okay, because in our garden, what this cauliflower is doing is it's a magnet. It's a magnet for the different insects that we have that come out here to eat. And so when I come out here every couple of days, they're going to want to be on their favorite plant, and it's easier for me to find them.
You can find them pretty easily because you'll see like which plants have the most damage, so you'll be able to know like.
That's very true. You'll notice though, and this is an important little thing, as we look at, let's say this plant right here. Can you get this in the shot? So here we have a cauliflower plant that's very clearly been chewed on by some imported cabbage worms. You can see these older leaves that are all chewed up, but in the center we've got this nice beautiful growth. All of the leaves here, there's a couple of pieces missing, but nothing at all like what we saw before. Nothing at all like leaves like this.
Leaves like this are not worth it. This
cabbage worm ate this right down to nothing. That tells us that we have handled our cabbage worm problem. They've stopped infesting this area so much. That's because two reasons. One is that we picked up a whole bunch of them, and fed them to my chickens, and two, the
Cool.
ones that were there that did make it to adulthood have started to go into their pupa stage, their cocoons, and they're going to become worms. I'm sorry, they're going to become moths really soon. And so we don't have to worry as much about the imported cabbage worm like we did before. So we have the kale, we have the cauliflower. Let's talk about this broccoli. I told you last time we met that I was going to let this first round of broccoli go to flower. I thought it would be interesting to have these in bloom so that our pollinators could come around. I want to have lots of pollinators in my garden because we're growing tomatoes on the other side. And so anything that can draw the pollinators in this garden, in my mind, is a really good thing.
The blooms on this also are really pretty. So.
It's very pretty. Yeah, so they're going to go to flower and then they're going to go to seed. So I'm not going to be harvesting cauliflower or broccoli out of this crop. I'm going to be doing kale and Brussels sprouts.
The kale is a really
I'm just quickly going to do a little garden maintenance here. Again, what you want to do is you want to pick your grid so that you're working in a spot, and then you're going to be taking out any weeds. We're growing broccoli in this area, so anything that's not broccoli is coming out.
AKA
And then
like clovers.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off any dead or rotting or diseased or yellowed leaves that I see on my broccoli.
There's
So starting on over, just taking out a little violet, taking out some,
like clovers.
yeah, here's some
And there's
clover.
some yellowed leaves underneath here.
Taking out grass. You want to work your grid. Carefully work your grid so that you're not leaving things behind. Got some older leaves I'm taking off.
Yes.
Here we are.
All of the like yellowed and the yellowed ones are coming off.
Yeah, the yellow leaves, they come off nice and easily, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They kind of almost fall off once you try and take them because they're old. This one does not have a nose.
Just trying to get all of those, the grass that's growing here.
And also-
Underneath the soil, there's a constant struggle with the root systems to try and get those nutrients out of the soil. And if we let the roots of the weeds go, then they're going to be the ones that soak up all of those nutrients
and that's
instead
not
of the
good.
plants that we're trying to grow. And so what we've done, we've looked at our brassicas. Our kale is going really well. Our cauliflower is the magnet. That's where the pests are going to go. And to encourage pollinators to come into our garden, we've decided to grow and then let flower this
And the
broccoli.
blackberry.
So that's my lesson on the brassicas for today. We're going to end right here. And when you see me next, we'll do a little bit more plant care in our sustainable garden. Thank you.